call committee of the whole meeting. Today is Monday, July 12th, 2021, and we are hereby called to order. The first item on our agenda is approval of our meeting minutes from the last meeting.
I move for approval of the last meeting minutes.
Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So that item passes. We are now to the consideration of the consent agenda. Now, I was told to sit really far from the microphone because they had been adjusted by someone to be very sensitive and that it would squeal if you get too close. So I guess we all just need to
All right, we'll back up.
do the best we can. Are there any items that members of the committee would like to place on consent?
Yes, Madam Chair, I have some items, please.
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to ask for consideration for the consent agenda, items 6, 7, and 8 on page 2, and item 10 on page 3.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Smitherman, are you okay with those being on consent?
I'm good.
Okay, good. Well, I am too. Those were my same ones. So, do I hear a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
So move.
Second.
It has been moved and properly seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So our consent agenda is approved. I understand that items 4 and 5 need to be withdrawn.
Yes, Madam Chair. Items 4 and 5 we're requesting to be withdrawn. We'll submit it for a later day.
Okay. Well, good, because I was going to ask you about the word acknowledging. That's very strange language for a bid. So I'm glad you're withdrawing it, and maybe that can be fixed.
So just clarification, number 4 is on the council agenda tomorrow, but that's a bid item. So that's why it shouldn't be before this committee, because it's just a regular bid. So the corrected language will be on the substituted tomorrow on the council agenda.
Good.
Thank you. That's a
I
good
noticed
catch.
that immediately, that y'all had changed the language for just that one. So thank you very much. So items 4 and 5 are both withdrawn. So that brings us to item 9. A resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into an agreement, should be an agreement, with B. Grace Media, LLC, pursuant to section 11-47-19 and 11-47-16 Code of Alabama 1975 in a sum not to exceed $125,200 to assist the city in organizing, promoting, managing, and facilitating an annual music and movie festival project events throughout the city of Birmingham parks during the months of June, July, August, and September 2021. BGM will be responsible for securing and organizing all advertisers, informational and educational providers, suppliers, and vendors for the event. BGM will be responsible for booking and any payment of all DJs and performing artists for the event, for procuring staging, sound, lighting equipment, and operators if not provided by performers, and for events setup and breakdown. BGM will coordinate with the city regarding crowd control, security, parking, signage, and other similar activities. BGM will consult with a representative of the city regarding the selection of the performers, advertisers, informational, and educational providers and vendors for the event.
Move the item.
Second.
Okay, so we have a motion that has been duly seconded, and we are ready for an explanation.
I'll have to yield to the council administration.
Madam Chair, members of the Budget and Finance Committee, this agreement that is before you is a culmination of, I believe, 2.5 months of conversation between Mayor Woodfin, some of his leadership team, Pro Tem Alexander, and President Parker. Following a very recently added sports and tourism activity, a classic football game. The council had interest in some shared activities across the city. The mayor made a commitment to the councilors that he would support reopening the city. The reopening of the city was a culmination of a mixture of ideas and activities per councilor or district. I think in previous years, some of these activities have included Jazz in the Park. I would want to refrain from calling the individual's name, who is now deceased, but that activity existed, I think, for over a period of 5 years. So the contract that is before you has been some discussion with a particular vendor and the folks that I've named. So unless there are some particular questions, I mean, that's a summary of it. I guess I can say, based on maybe some of the attachments, the amount that was originally requested in total by the president was around $350,000, I believe. Of course, that was too much, and the mayor wanted something more reasonable as it relates to the activities. However, given some concerns that have been expressed by small businesses and citizens, it made sense to host activities to include feedback from the council. So, again, that's a summary, but I can answer questions if you have some questions.
I have a lot of questions, but I'll allow my colleagues to ask questions first. No questions. Well, which council members were consulted on this? Just special ones?
No, ma'am. Probably 80% of the items that I speak with District 3 about typically come through your staff. So I have a record with talking with your office, and I have the feedback from your office as it relates to that. Without my participation, I believe that the vendor has talked with some counselors, and those counselors have spoken with me. But I can assure you that each counselor was touched. Based on the amount that was agreed upon by the council's leadership and the mayor, I simply used the math of a division by 9. So the 125 would be reflected 1/9, each counselor having his or her event or activity. And if it exceeded the amount of funding that was available, then the counselor would have to supplement the activity based on what he or she wanted to do.
Okay, so the language, BGM will consult with a representative of the city, that would be a city councilman in a district that they would be consulting with over what kind of event they wanted?
To the example that you made, I would say yes, but as it relates it being written into the contract, I think that's just kind of standard language. But again, I think the vendor can speak for herself. I would not want to speak for the vendor, but just in terms of what I'm familiar with, I can say yes.
Okay, so in each district, some kind of event can be put on. It can be either an educational event, an informational event, an advertising event, or a performance event. Is that accurate?
That is accurate, but again, I think the broadness of the activity is contingent upon what fits in a particular district. Like, I don't necessarily want to, getting into the naming of activities or events, but I think small businesses in a particular area are interested in the annual restaurant week. So one of the activities that I know that has been discussed is the annual restaurant week. And I can't say if we had it the previous 2 years, I know 1 of 2 years, but it is on the radar of small businesses. Some of the other activities, the 4th Avenue, either Jazz Festival or Merchant Association's activities. So there have been some, Counselor, but I just don't want to get in the business of naming these activities.
Oh, no, I just wanted clarity. You don't have to name anybody.
Right.
Including the previous jazz providers. I mean, I just want to understand how it's supposed to work. And, and also the BGM will coordinate with the city regarding crowd control, security, parking, et cetera. Does that mean that they're coordinating with us or that we're paying for it?
So I think that all depends on the flexibility of the administration. The administration has said that each counselor, under some circumstances, depending on, which year, that they will waive some fees for one activity a year. We have not had that level of conversation with the administration to know. However, I do know, at least from one counselor, a waiver of fees would be sought in some situations, especially if we're using city facilities in each of these instances.
Okay. Yeah, I just wish we could get our city services back up to par before we start spending money on entertaining people. But that's just a personal thing. Because people in my district want their city services restored the way they used to be, instead of what we have now, with trash piled all over our neighborhoods.
This item is no different than any other item that may have some.
I got you. Any questions from anyone? Okay, we have a motion. Okay, Councilor O'Quinn, you have anything? Okay. We have a motion, so all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Abstain. So that doesn't go anywhere right now. So our next item on our agenda is item 11.
I move for adjournment.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. I'm sorry everybody had to drive all this way.